Welcome back to In Depth with Academia. It's Richard Price here, your host and the CEO of academia.edu. Thrilled you're joining today because, wow, we have a paper for you that's just, well, it's kind of provocative, honestly. But remember, as always, my job is to guide you through the latest in academic thought neutrally, not to promote or endorse any particular view. So, today we're diving into The Machiavellian Evolution of Marketing Thought by Hadrian Stone. What a title, right? The subtitle's even longer. Comparative Framework. Analysing Kotler, Ries, Trout, Godin, Greene and Stone. So, we have a lot to chew on. Let's start with the core question. What's the problem? Is marketing about honest persuasion? Or is it shifting, maybe even mutating into something more like behavioural orchestration, even, covert manipulation? That's a big question, right? Particularly now, when so much of our world is shaped by algorithms and behavioural data. Stone suggests that if we look closely at the most influential thinkers, Philip Kotler, Al Ries, Jack Trout, Seth Godin, Robert Greene, and then Stone himself, we can detect a progression. Marketing has moved from persuasive communication to a sort of strategic power play. And by Machiavellian, Stone basically means using whatever tactics work, not evil exactly, but really pragmatic, even coldly strategic. Why does this matter for you as a listener? Well, if you're a marketer, business owner, or just someone trying to understand why you see the ads you do, Stone's analysis could shape how you think about what's really happening behind the scenes. According to Stone, influencing people now goes way beyond catchy slogans. It's about shaping emotions, guiding behavior, even constructing entire realities. Heavy stuff. But hey, let's just explore it together, without assuming he's got the last word. Stone lays this out by dissecting the intellectual lineage of marketing, highlighting 6 figures he sees as critical. Kotler, for example, he's the system builder. If you've read Marketing Management, you know Kotler transformed marketing into a managerial science, organizing consumer needs, segmenting them, making it all systematic. But, Stone argues, even Kotler's quantitative rigor is, at its heart, about controlling perception and buying habits. Then, Stone shifts to Ries and Trout. These guys reframed the battlefield as perception, not product. Marketing is a battle for the mind, they say. For them, it's not enough to have a good product. You need to cement an idea in people's heads before anyone else does. Sound familiar? It's a forerunner of what you see with brands vying for prime mental real estate in crowded media landscapes. Godin's next. He's the tribal guy. Permission marketing. This was a big deal in the early days of email and social media. Godin says, forget traditional persuasion, invite people into a tribe, foster belonging, then nurture that relationship. So in a sense, control gets softer, but ironically, maybe even stronger, because when people feel like they belong, they sometimes give you more leeway to influence them than if you're just shouting ads in their faces. Robert Greene, though, he brings in the darker stuff. Laws of Power. Art of Seduction. Not exactly light reading, but Stone argues Greene gives us the intellectual permission to talk openly about power and manipulation, stripping away the euphemisms of value creation. He really points out that the true mechanics of influence aren't always so innocent. Finally, we arrive at Stone's own theory. He calls this the Machiavellian Marketing Framework. At this point in the paper, Stone's not mincing words. Marketing, he says, is the strategic architecture of attention and behavior. The 23 laws he sets out are about mastering the flows of perception and data so you can, shape outcomes. He also frames it as a turn, a kind of philosophical upgrade that attempts to tie together Kotler's management, Ries and Trout's perception, Godin's belonging, and Greene's unapologetic realism. His methods, by the way, are interpretive rather than empirical, so there's no new experimental data here. Instead, he's pulling together different writings, digging into the metaphors, assumptions, language they use, and showing how he thinks they converge on this new Machiavellian synthesis. And look, quick digression, sometimes when I read papers like this, I get distracted thinking about how many of these frameworks would totally change if people still relied on billboards more than TikTok. Does the Machiavellian model still apply if, say, you only had to deal with 3 newspapers and 1 radio station? But anyway, just a random thought. Wrapping up, Stone claims that the logical conclusion is that successful marketers will be those who command attention and shape perception, not by chance or by gut, but with systematic rigor in this era, shaped by artificial intelligence and behavioral data. But he's also careful not to say this is morally right or wrong. He frames it as a reality check. So, what does this mean for you? Whether you buy Stone's Machiavellian premise or you see it as a provocative exaggeration, it's a reminder that academic research offers lenses, not final truths. Marketing isn't static, and neither are the ways people try to shape your decisions. Remember, I'm not promoting these views, just laying them out for your reflection. Maybe you'll leave this episode a little more skeptical of the next marketing message, or maybe you'll just wonder why, suddenly, every cereal box looks like it's fighting for your soul. Either way, thanks for listening to In Depth with Academia. See you next time.